SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
There's been some interesting developments in Montenegro as its government authorised strict restrictions on payments for its online gambling space, which includes the banning of popular transaction methods. And this will be the discussion in the first half of today's episode of iGaming Daily, supported by Optimove, as I'm joined by payment expert and insider sports editor Ted Orme-Claye, and Kieron O'Connor, the business journalist for payment expert and insider sport, does join me, but you'll hear more from him in the second half, which will see us all indulge in mine and Kieron's passion for Manchester United as we revisit the FA Cup final and the mighty victory for the Red Devils over their noisy neighbours Manchester City, to look into how changes to the competition's format could impact bookmakers moving forward. I'm pretty glad your other colleague, Callum Williams, isn't on this podcast, because he'd absolutely hate the second part of that introduction, because he's a Manchester City fan if people didn't know. First off, Ted, Kieron, you okay?
I'm good, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I had a good time in Malta last week. Came back on Saturday, absolutely dreading this final. Safe to say I'm not dreading it right now. It's amazing what an FA Cup final does to you. I was an avid Ten Hag out supporter, and I don't know. Sorry. Just for the listeners, this podcast mic keeps going up and down. It's uncontrollable. So if you hear my voice just gradually go out like this, it's because of the arm. I'll try and control it. Yeah, I was an avid Ten Hag out supporter, but after that FA Cup final and kind of just the way he came across and was very kind of back against the wall, you know, everyone's against me, I'm going to come out fighting. It kind of changed my mind on him quite a bit. Kieron, you're a big United fan.
Yeah, big United fan. Wasn't really trying to participate in the Ten Hag out or Ten Hag in discussions. Yeah. Just sort of been brought up to just...
Why have you got a tattoo saying Ten Hag out
the... Yeah, just sort of been brought up to try and just support whoever's in. And obviously we've now got a better structure at the top, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So I also just trust whatever decisions they make.
You were probably part of that era when Sir Alex Ferguson did his final speech. He's like, support the manager, you know, support the club, support the manager. But then 8 months later, we sacked David Moyes, so there's your support for you. Ted, you're obviously a Nottingham Forest fan. You survived relegation, didn't you?
Yeah, just about scraped it, managed to hang on. I guess partly by virtue of the teams below us being like struggling even more than we did. Yeah. But yeah, managed to soldier through that points deduction as well. And
you screwed next season, so
yeah. I'm not too hopeful. Yeah. But you know, it's been nice to be here. You know,
around the table.
So just say that. Yeah, it's been nice to see you've thrown us some scraps at the end of the dinner table for this Premier League season. So yeah.
Yeah, did you watch the final? Enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a really impressive performance from United, all things considered.
Thank you.
Know what I mean?
Cheers.
Given I know we've said that, City, the noisy neighbours, but they've really been turning up the volume over the past decade, haven't they? You know, in terms of the neighbourhood, they've bought quite a big stereo system, you know, and have been really blasting it out. So it's this season in general has been quite sort of refreshing, hasn't it, to see. You know, out of England's 3 tournaments, you've had 3 different winners: City, nice. United, and Liverpool.
Yeah, unlucky Arsenal. They had a better season than us. We had a more successful one.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, I think we've talked enough football. I really did want to do a podcast on the FA Cup. I know we're on Wednesday now, and the FA Cup was on Saturday, but I dictate this podcast, so I decide what it is. And I will talk about United. But we're going to talk about Montenegro. But before we do that, it's probably an appropriate time to mention the supporter again for the iGaming Daily podcast. And just like Manchester United are the #1 team in the FA Cup this year, the FA Cup, let's avoid every other competition we've been in. Optimove are the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Those out there listening, if you'd like to experience what Optimove have to offer your company, visit www.optimove.com/SBC, where you'll be able to gain a first free month for new customers. We will leave a link in the description below, just in case you don't want to hear my voice say that website link again. So, Ted, this is going to be you all in the first half. This is your article. This is your area of expertise, Montenegro. Informers, what's happened in Montenegro this week, and can you just give us a rundown of how the industry's responded?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't quite say I'm an expert on Montenegro as a country, although I would quite like to visit it. It looks very beautiful. But so regarding the sort of payments news and iGaming news I've had coming from there, the government have announced what it looks like to be quite a controversial measure, suggesting which is going to amend Montenegro's betting laws, mainly around payments. In fact, I say mainly around payments, entirely around payments. They're going to be banning all forms of e-payments, I guess say electronic payments, online ones, including Apple Pay and PayPal, which are obviously two of the most sort of emerging and developing, growing, whatever word you want to use, payment methods globally. They're going to be banning these for online payments. So that's, I think, is going to be placing quite a heavy emphasis on like the omni-channel sort of journey, I guess, payments journey. Customers are going to be, I think by the looks of it, are going to be required to either pay in cash or pay by card in shops in order to top up online betting accounts. This has been controversial for two reasons. Firstly, the Montenegrin gambling industry has responded with a lot of criticism towards it, as you'd expect, because it's significantly closing off how customers can pay. They're quite worried about the impact this could have economically on the industry's standing as part of the Montenegrin economy, its standing in terms of employment. And there's been a petition of, I think it's amassed something like 25,000 signatures, which means it's now going to be debated by Montenegrin legislators. Kind of similar to what we've seen in the UK, with the horse racing industry and their petition around affordability checks here. Yeah. So it's interesting to see that that's becoming a bit more of a popular method, I guess, of the industry sort of making its voice heard. It's also been controversial in a different avenue because it goes against EU law, which the Montenegro is aspiring to join the EU, and this could slightly complicate that, but that's obviously a separate issue to gambling.
I thought you said you weren't a Montenegro expert.
Yeah, clearly I've got clearly I'm a bit read up on that, yeah.
Okay, so you've gone into a bit of detail there. So why is this significant in the wider context of European betting regulations and jurisdictions?
So the important thing to reference here, I think, is money laundering requirements. Something we've seen, I know this is something we talked about in previous podcasts, Gibraltar and Malta, two quite prominent betting jurisdictions in Europe that found themselves on the FATF grey list. That's like a list of financial jurisdictions seen as being a bit, I don't know if unstable is the right word, but that
question marks.
Where questions have been raised, and where
Malta are off that now, aren't they?
Yeah, both of those. It's important to note that both of those jurisdictions are now off because they were assigned an FATF. For the listeners who don't know, the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, is the anti-money laundering unit of the G7 group of countries. Yeah. So that's not the EU, that's the G7. But the important thing that I think has been raised by those, even though this doesn't quite, the Montenegrin laws aren't affected by this, is that a lot of the conclusions these action plans that these two countries were assigned came to was that, cash is of quite high cash use is quite a big risk in money laundering, as is kind of common sense, really, isn't it? And the Montenegrin gambling, the changes to their gambling laws will, as I said earlier, be placing quite a heavier emphasis on cash. So it's kind of complicating this money laundering relationship. And separately, that is something that Moneyval, which is the EU's kind of version of the FATF, I guess you could say, that's something that they've been quite vocal on, wanting to see less heavy use of cash and things like that because of the money laundering requirements. So it's all this, It's just quite significant within that context and within the context of just changing payments dynamics, I guess, across Europe, going more towards digital.
Yeah, and you already mentioned its aspirations to enter the EU. What importance could kind of move into kind of this cash payment have for Montenegro moving forward with regard to the betting industry and like other contexts, like the EU, for example?
Yeah, it really just, I think, like I said, it's to do with the money laundering side of things. A lot of authorities are wanting to see more, I guess more digital payment usage. They see it as being safer. In a lot of countries now. I know this isn't Europe, but like if we look at Australia, some of the regulators and state authorities there have been encouraging more use of cashless payments because they see it as being better for player protection and better for money laundering because, it's easier to track, it's easier to log.
Yeah.
You cash, you don't always know where cash has come from. So it's within that context. And I guess as well, if this does complicate Montenegro's ability to join the EU, it could then sort of complicate its ability to join the pan-EU sort of gambling network, I guess you could say, and the various sort of interconnected businesses you get through that. So that might be something else to consider.
Yeah, it is a baffling one. Again, they need to be kind of going backwards when everyone else is kind of moving forward when it comes to kind of payments and online. And you mentioned Australia with the credit card ban. Sweden done the same. Netherlands and UK have got strong affordability checks as well, and Germany as well, quite strict and stuff like this.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this question, but I kind of already know where it's going to go. Could you see any other countries kind of following a similar path, or any similar developments happening in other countries already? And let's kind of look maybe outside the EU, just like Montenegro are.
I don't think so, no, not quite in this sense. Certainly a lot of the jurisdictions we cover quite regularly at SBC, I'd say, are going more towards, just in general with payments trends, are going more towards digital, aren't they, for the most part? It's something we're seeing quite a bit. Cash use is still there. I mean, I use cash sometimes, for just
I never use
transactions now and then.
What's cash? What's this podcast about? What's a physical payment? I've deterred you there.
Yeah, I know, but you throw me off a little bit there, yeah. I need to reconsider where I'm going.
You're still stuck in the 90s.
All right. No, I don't really see this, I don't really see this happening in too many other jurisdictions, to be honest. I think for the most part, a lot of regulators, a lot of governments have kind of accepted where technologically payments and finance is going, and wanting to work with that. I know you noted the credit card bans. That's becoming quite commonplace across a lot of countries because of player protection concerns. Governments and regulators don't want to see people getting into gambling incurred debt by paying with credit. I mean, this is something that in the UK, I think we got rid of credit card payments for betting back in like 2019. As I said, Australia are moving ahead with it. Sweden have had a ban in place for a while and are now looking to expand that. So I think that's something we're going to see continuing, as well as also as you said as well, this sort of constant debate around affordability and how payments plays into that. Which I guess, like you said, the UK and the Netherlands are probably the two biggest examples of this.
Yeah, there's going to be more developments on this story. Like you said, they've got 25,000 signatures to take this to. Oh, is it the government to?
Yeah, I believe it's the Parliament. Yeah,
Parliament. Yeah. So, Ted, you're going to be all over this on Payment Expert. We'll leave any links to the stories in the description below on the Montenegro payment ban, online payment ban, shall we say? In the description below. Apart from that, I'm going to go for a quick break because this podcast arm's going to knock me out in a minute because I keep trying to hold it down before it goes up. But when we get back, we're going to take the Payment Expert hats off and Insider Sport hats on, as we'll be talking FA Cup and the future of it and what to expect from bookmakers.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information. Welcome back.
I think I've fixed the arm. If it knocks me out and I stop talking, that's why. So, Ted will take over. But let's not forget we've still got Kieron here as well. I know he's been silent for the first half, but he's back with the FA Cup and United story. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good stuff.
Still awake.
Still awake. I don't know if that's an insult to Ted, though.
Oh, it's not an insult, no. That's just me being tired from the weekend. It was a long, long weekend.
Don't take it personal, Ted. Right, we're going to talk about the FA Cup. The final that took place this weekend. I've already asked you about your reactions to it, but do you think the result was a blow to the bookies? Because obviously City, overwhelming favourites, 4 in a row. But sadness came out when I said that. Yeah. I remember when United had a chance to do 4 in a row and we just missed it. 4 in a row and they could have done back-to-back FA Cup doubles. Or was it back-to-back doubles? Yeah, the FA Cup and Premier League doubles.
Yeah.
Could have done back-to-back FA Cup, Premier League doubles. Didn't happen. Blow to the bookies. I'll go Kieron, actually. Shut up, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I wouldn't say that many people give United a chance. Even before they got to the final, I wouldn't say anyone really thought they were going to go and win it after the season they've had. I would say a lot of punters probably bet on City. Just trying to back the favourite. No one give United any chance, especially with all the talk about losing the manager the week before the final.
Yeah,
I think United were like 7-1, 8-1 at most bookies. You know, they didn't expect it, but maybe people were trying to back the big payout. If it's 7-1, 8-1, it's still Manchester United. Well, it's a Manchester derby. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I was in the changing room, or the locker if you're in America, or whatever you call it wherever around the world. But I was in the changing room getting changed after the gym, and I heard a guy in there talking about a bet that he put on, and it was 9-1 for United, just outright winners.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, I made £900 off that." And I was like, "You put £100 on United to win, like 9-1." I was baffled. I didn't say it to him. I said, "Congratulations." But yeah, it's kind of unheard of, really, unless it's like a really extreme, like Manchester City v Wigan.
Yeah.
God knows how long back that was. But yeah, it's kind of unheard of in a final, certainly with those two teams as well. So it's definitely some big payouts over the weekend. But how significant a market is the FA Cup for bookmakers? And Ted, I'll come to you first. Why is it one trading team should keep their eye on? Well,
in terms of the significance of the market, it's obviously it's the world's oldest football tournament. It's a staple every year. So you're always going to get fans betting on it regularly. Obviously, it does also interrupts the Premier League, doesn't it? When you have an FA Cup weekend, so it almost just the matches just fill in for the Premier League basically. Although I do think in the minds of most punters they do prefer league betting personally, probably because the teams are a lot more evenly matched, I guess you could say, for the most part. Anyway, I know obviously like Man City and Luton aren't evenly matched, but it's still theoretically more so than them against like a third division team.
It's also the magic of the FA Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what I was going to bring up. Yeah, I think that's quite a big one with the potential, like I say, the magic of the FA Cup and the potential of giant killings. A lot of people might be out there looking for just to see if they can find a bit of a big win.
Yeah,
right. And it does that every year. You do get it happen, don't you? You do get a Championship team or a League One team gets lucky against the Premier League team or.
We had like the Vanarama League or something, the Conference League.
Yeah. I don't remember a few. Do you remember that feature we did a couple of years ago with, I think it was with the CEO of Boreham Wood at a time after they'd had quite a good run. I don't think they beat any Premier League teams, but they're still beating teams like several divisions above them when they were in I can't remember what division it was. It was around the National League or possibly even one of the ones below. So you do get that there is that potential for that. And I guess one of the things you can't underestimate in this country is how loyal a lot of people are to the local side, and they will just say, you know what, I'm going off to watch the game today. I'm going to go in the local bookie and have a fiver on them to beat Arsenal or whatever in like the third round of the FA Cup, because why not?
Yeah, I thought it was quite optimistic that you'd think I'd remember an article from 3 years ago. so bold request, that one. But the FA Cup's going to be going through a few changes. I think it comes in from next year. The FA have described these as strengthening, I'll use air quotations for people who can't see us, strengthening the FA Cup. So, Kieron, what changes are going to be coming in for the FA Cup?
Yeah, so I would say probably one of the biggest ones, as Ted mentioned before, there's going to be no replays from the first round proper. What's drove this sort of decision is that there's huge changes to the calendar in the UEFA competitions. So I think they've added a new tournament, the sort of upgrading the World Club Cup, I think. That's one of them. They're obviously adding more games to the Champions Leagues and stuff like that. So because of that, they've decided to make room for them games, and because players are playing too many games, that's been a big conversation recently. To do that, they've actually axed replays in the FA Cup, which obviously hasn't gone down too well because it looks there's only 6 or 7 teams in the English football pyramid who play in these competitions.
Yeah,
compared to the FA Cup where they all play in it.
I was going to say this, like from the first round proper to cancel them all. I can understand the third round when like the bigger teams start, like the Premier League start coming in, but a lot of smaller teams actually. Well, certainly when you play like a champion, if you're in like the Conference League or the League Two is where the football pyramid pretty much starts in England, like with the EFL.
Yeah.
When you start playing the bigger teams, the smaller teams want those replays because they're such money generators for them, and it really does help boost kind of their finances in a big way. So to kind of remove them from the first round proper is a bit extreme. There's also a media perspective from this as well.
So there's a big media perspective as well, yes. We've got a big change coming. TNT Sports, which previously known as BT, they've actually acquired the rights to the FA Cup alongside, obviously, the free-to-air broadcaster BBC, who obviously shared the rights with ITV for several years, number of years. This is big for the main part because TNT Sports are a subscription service, so they're not free to everyone. The FA Cup, I think the magic of the FA Cup is about giant killings, but it's also a game where you can stick it on ITV, it'll be on BBC, and you sort of see these lower league clubs play these big league clubs at tea time, or sat around with your family just on normal TV. So we're not going to have that anymore.
Is just to confirm on that one, have TNT said that the FA Cup will still be free to air?
I'm almost sure that it's not free to air on TNT, but the big change that is coming is that there will, for the first time ever, because it's on TNT, there will be games where the 3 PM blackout usually is. So there'll be televised games during the 3 PM blackout, which is a big change. It'll be the first time it's happened, and that'll come into play from 2025 to 2029.
Yeah, so just to confirm, I'm looking at the FA Cup, the FA website now, and it's saying football's most historic domestic cup competition, the MSFA Cup, will continue to be accessible to all fans following a new agreement that will see the BBC become the free-to-air broadcaster competition in a 4-year deal starting from 2025-26.
Yeah. So the BBC, I believe, from my understanding, was the BBC have retained rights, but it's not. I don't know if it's all of them. I'm pretty sure
it's 14 games per season.
Yeah, so it's shared with. So there will be some of it still free to air.
Okay,
but it's going to be split basically. Cool. It's like a shared rights agreement, I guess you could say.
Cool. And just to round us off, like Ted, how important do you think this could be for bookmakers? Like, what factors should marketing and trading teams consider?
I guess the thing to keep an eye on, and this again is just going to be sort of us looking into our crystal ball that none of us are qualified enough to predict the future. But I guess they'll just need to keep an eye on like the exposure of the tournament and audience engagement with the tournament, with it not being fully available free to air anymore. Is that going to affect numbers? Is that going to affect how people engage with it? Is that going to affect how people respond to marketing? Is it going to affect how people bet on it? I guess that's really the thing to keep an eye on. But as Kieron mentioned, TNT are also removing the 3 PM blackout, which could kind of even things out a bit there. So it's hard to say definitively whether there will be like a negative impact, but I think it's just something that might be worth keeping an eye on from that perspective.
Yeah, I'm hoping the 3 PM blackout also gets kind of wiped out from the Premier League slate as well. From a selfish point of view, I can understand why it's there for the English football pyramid. But that's all we've got time for today. Ted, Kieron, thank you for joining us. To the listeners out there, I will leave links in the description below to check out all the articles that we've been talking about in today's podcast. But apart from that, stay tuned and listen to iGaming Daily tomorrow. And to sign us off, shall we just sing Glory, Glory, Man United?
You can count me out.
Glory, Man United! There you go.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.